What's up, guys? Ryan here at Signature Edits, and today we are going behind the edit with Hannah at Finn the Fox Photography. She's based in the UK, an insane wedding photographer, and inside this video, you're going to learn pretty much everything behind her edits. We talk about how she got into photography, how she built her business, the advice she wishes she could give her younger self, best marketing tactics for starting a business today. Then, of course, we jump over into gear. We talk about getting clients comfortable in front of the camera, some amazing posing strategies for just getting people comfortable and connecting, and some insane ways to get lens flares with no special equipment whatsoever. So you're going to want to make sure you buckle in for this one. Of course, we then hit the editing section where we're going to show you step by step how she edits her incredible images. Okay, so if you have questions, leave them in the comments below because we're going to make sure we answer every single one. Let's hit that intro and get into it. Question number one. How did you wind up taking photos for a living?
I always had pretty cameras in my life. My dad always was a camera fan and always took pictures of us. So I think I got it from him. But then after I had my little boy, we went to his newborn shoot and I walked out and I was like, oh, that was nice. I think I can do that.
Okay.
I came back to going back to work or staying at home and doing something else. And I was like, okay, let's give it a go. Bought a Canon M50. I think that was one of the first mirrorless ones. No idea at all. Watched a million YouTube videos. Did a ton of free shoots. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. So your process was basically you bought the camera and then you just started watching YouTube videos like crazy. Like, how do I use this thing? And then step three was, how do you get the free shoots? You just reached out to family, friends? What was kind of the process there?
Some friends, Facebook groups, you know, the local ones. I mean, that was like 4 or 5 years ago when Facebook was still a thing. Just asked for people to model for me for free pictures. And there's always someone that wants to do it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that people get kind of intimidated when they're starting out because the hardest thing is building that portfolio, and it's like, I have nobody to shoot, but you have your friends and your family, and then if you do it for free, like there's always somebody you can find, especially once you get better. The first couple are a little harder, but that's where your friends and family come in, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's free, so they don't expect a lot. People they're just happy with free pictures if they get some. So yeah.
Okay, so how did you get your first wedding? Tell me that story in 30 seconds.
My partner's friends got married, standard story, and he was a groomsman. They've already booked the wedding photographers, but they were like, well, Hannah, you're just starting out. Do you want to come in the morning and take some pictures of the boys? And then you can take some pictures during the day, which I now feel really bad about because I never talked to the main shooter. And it was just me as Auntie Bob.
Just in the way, just doing your thing.
Yeah, running around with my little M50, having no idea. I shot this ceremony on it, put some pictures on Instagram, and then people started booking. Yeah.
Question number 2 for you. What is one of the best or most worthwhile investments that you've ever made in your photography?
A screen calibrator.
Okay.
When I look back at my old edits and the colors are off, it's definitely, I mean, the gear is important, but have your screen colors right so the prints actually look great. Is really important. And I love my iPad. I edit on my iPad most of the time.
No way. And do you like the fact that it's touch, or are you still using like a keyboard and mouse?
No, I use the pen. It's very easy. It's a lot more precise and everything with the pen.
So a whole wedding you'll do on the iPad?
Yeah.
Actually, you're the second person I've talked to who does it just on the iPad. And I can't imagine doing that. It just seems like it would take forever, but
I think it's actually faster. Because you just like copy and paste and do, because with the pen it's like you don't have to, like with a mouse sometimes it's not like the easiest. So with the pen it's just like boom, boom, done, next picture.
Okay, so screen calibrator and an iPad. I can definitely relate with this with the screen because I remember when I was starting out, I had, like an old cheap Windows monitor and I was editing, and then I'd upload the photos and look at my phone on Facebook or whatever, and they looked nothing like they're supposed to. And then I got a MacBook, which kind of has a nice screen to start with, and all of a sudden my photos started getting a lot better. So yeah, definitely worth it. I agree with you there. So question number 3, you're just blazing through these. If you could go back and tell yourself anything during your first year of business, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
Stop buying presets.
That is good advice. All right, elaborate a little bit for me.
I mean, I don't know. I'm a preset addict and I've got everyone's preset and there's not a lot I like. It's not worth the money. It's more, or use one and then make it into your own, but don't keep on buying presets because, yeah, it's not worth it.
Do you have my presets?
No, I do, because I have this mega. I bought this big bundle from you ages ago when I just started out, and it had some presets in it, didn't it?
Okay, so don't buy my presets. That's the advice.
No, buy presets, but don't keep on buying them. Decide on a style and don't try because everyone changes. You don't need to change all the time.
I can relate so much to this advice you're giving. It's good because I bought hundreds of dollars in presets thinking, oh, if I buy these presets, my photos will look like the demo images. But that's really not how it works.
Yeah.
It's that the demo images were amazing to begin with. So the preset kind of just enhances it. It doesn't actually change what your photos look like. So, okay. So that's the advice you give. Any other advice?
Don't rely on Instagram.
Because?
Put money into SEO because we all figured it out now. Instagram is basically dead. I wish I had spent more money and time into SEO and got my website right, because in the beginning I booked everything through Instagram, everything. And yeah, now it's maybe only like 25%.
That's a massive decline. Interesting. You're just not getting the engagement you were before. So interesting. I guess that's sucks to be you. And it's encouraging for someone starting out because it's not like you need an Instagram, like an amazing profile with 1,000 followers, because you can just, if you have SEO, you can kind of do it as long as your work is there. With that in mind, what's your number one piece of marketing advice for young creators?
Get your SEO right.
What do you think are the main things that you found make a difference with SEO?
I've signed up for a course to learn SEO or pay someone to do it because it's very detailed and you need to know a lot.
What's in your camera bag right now? What gear are you using? What lenses? Literally give me a rundown of everything in your kit. I'd love to hear it.
So I have two Canon R6 as a main body. I have a Canon 35 1.8 with a macro built in, which is amazing. I have the Canon 85 1.2, which is a beast, but incredible. Then the Nifty 50 from Canon as well, which is, everyone should have it. It's a great little lens. I have two Canon flashes, lots of batteries, and I have two rotor lights, which I sometimes bring to weddings.
All right, so you got the 35, the 50, and the 85. You don't have any like telephoto 200, anything like that?
No, I used to have a 24 for the Sony, but obviously because I sold all my Sony kit, I rarely used my 24. It's quite handy in the UK because rooms are very small. Everything is very small here compared to America. But yeah, that will be my next lens.
When you're actually at the wedding, at the shoot, whatever it is, you got two bodies. What's kind of the go-to setup that you've got?
35, 85.
And then do you have a dual holster as well, like accessories, other stuff in addition to the lenses?
Yeah, I have a pretty one with my logo on the back, which is also great marketing.
Nice. Yeah. Very cool. Where'd you get that?
From Etsy. It's like Decide Leather. I think they ship worldwide.
Any kind of accessories, filters, random things that you just keep in your bag that most people might not think of, anything like that?
I always have wipes to clean my lenses because I like smudging my lenses for nice flares. So I always need to clean them after. I used to have a lot of stuff. I used to have Pro Mist filter and things like that. But I all now be more natural, and you can still be artsy, but you don't need that much gear to be artsy.
Tell me more about this smudging lens flare thing. Is that with like Vaseline, or what do you put on the lens?
Forehead sweat.
When you said I like to smudge my lenses, I thought you meant like on purpose, like for effect or something.
Yeah, I do. So during the shoot, when I see a nice sun flare, I just go a little bit on my forehead and then wipe it over my lens.
That is so gross and so awesome.
Yeah, just like, you've got a little bit of grease. It's basically the same as Vaseline. You just put a bit on it.
And then that just makes it flare a little bit more? Like, what does that actually do?
Yeah.
I need to get you to send me a couple sample images so I can see like which ones are sweated and which ones are not sweated.
I think I've got one in the editing pile I chose.
Okay, perfect. I'm really excited about this. Thank you for being so raw and real.
It's just a tiny bit. If you do too much, then it just looks like a dirty lens. But if you do just a tiny amount of smudge, then it's perfect.
I am honestly shocked and amazed. This is my favorite conversation ever. Okay, so moving on from that, what are your go-to camera settings? So you've got your 35 and your 85, you've got the dual holster, you're at the shoot, kind of are you aperture priority, manual mode? Like what are all the settings that you kind of rely on?
Aperture priority all day, apart from when I use flash. Yeah, depends on how dark it is. But yeah, aperture priority is a game changer at weddings. Then f-stop is always on 2. Unless I do group shots, then I go up to, depending on the size, 4.5, 5. My shutter speed is at least 250 because people are moving. And ISO is auto as well. So
Okay.
I'm a big
Pretty
cheater.
simple. Are you shooting with your exposure meter? Do you just keep it right in the middle, or do you underexpose, overexpose?
Yeah, I adjust it to the situation.
Yeah, sure. Okay,
but yeah,
perfect.
It's usually set on 0. But yeah, then I go -1, depends on the light, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then with your focus mode, any special tricks there? Is it just set to general or?
Yeah, I autofocus, and then if I need to focus on something specific, I just tap my screen.
Cameras have gotten so much easier in so many ways.
I know. It feels
it's like what's your camera settings? Oh, just let the camera figure it out.
Yeah, why not? At weddings, I think it's so important to capture moments. And if you shoot manual, fair play to everyone that shoots manual, because it's hard work, but you also miss a lot of moments, I think. And with aperture priorities, your main goal at a wedding is get as many fun moments as possible. So yeah, just don't want to risk it.
Let's say you're just hopping on a plane. You can only grab one camera and one lens. What would you choose?
The 6 and the 35 1.8.
And then what would you say just in general is like the percentage of time that you're shooting on the 35 versus the 85? Is it mostly 35?
It's a good mix, to be honest. I love couple portraits and close-ups on the 85. I started doing group shots now on the 85 as well, just so it's more focused on the people than the surroundings. Candids I do all day in 85, but it's basically a good mixture of both.
But yet you'd take the 35.
Yeah, because it's more versatile. And I like being close to people. With the 85, you need to be further away. So when you do a couple shoot, you have to like shout to them to put them into the next position. So so 35, you can do close-ups, especially with a Canon because it's got the built-in macro. So you can get really nice detailed shots with it as well.
What's the most important part of creating photos in your unique style? Like, what is it? Is it the lighting? Is it the posing? Is it the gear? I don't know. What's the most important part?
It's the connection to the couple. Because if you have a good connection with your couple, you get emotion out of them, which I think my pictures are quite emotional, so that really helps. And the light, yeah. It has to be the perfect light for me to shoot. I'm happy to push a couple of sessions back until the light is perfect.
Okay, so during a wedding, how do you actually go about doing that?
On a summer day, so I talk to my couples beforehand. They see my pictures. I used to love golden hour. Now I tend more towards blue hour because it's just so much softer and easier to edit as well.
That's true.
And I try to avoid bright sun. Talk to my couples and be like, well, if it's a really sunny day, if we find a shady space at the venue, we do a few shots in the afternoon. If not, we're pushing it straight back to the evening.
So shady spots, let's say that the venue's whatever, you find some shade. Is this shaded background, or like what do you look for when you're finding the right shade? Does that question make sense?
Basically, no harsh sunlight. I'm not someone, there's some amazing photographers that you really play with light and shadow and highlights and things like that. I just like even light. So as long as the light is even, so basically everything in the shade, not necessarily right in a forest because that is too dark, but yeah, even, I always look for even light.
Okay, so because you said that connection is the number one way that you shoot like Hannah, like if I wanted to shoot like you, that's what I need. Can we talk a little bit about connection? Because I'm imagining, like everybody, when you started out, you had no idea how to pose couples. You had no idea how to work with people and make them comfortable. So what would be the biggest lessons that you've kind of learned that help that connection, I guess? If you're sitting down with me, it's like, I have no idea. Help me, Hannah. What would you say?
I'd say, so I always offer an engagement shoot to all my couples because I, to this day, don't know what to do in front of a camera. someone that's never been in front of a camera doesn't know. So the engagement shoot is more than an icebreaker. So we literally go for a little walk. We talk actually more than we shoot. So I get to know my couples and I see them interact with each other, which really helps when it comes to posing. First shots I always do is walking shots because they don't have to concentrate on the camera. They actually concentrate on walking. And then I also pre-warn everyone that the first 10 minutes are always awkward. And then it's like a switch. Mm-hmm. Then I just watch them and then I see what they're like. And then my couples always joke about Hannah and her forehead kisses. I always go, can we do a little forehead kiss? Which is always cute and you always get a nice picture out of it. But then they're already in the zone because they're touching each other. Mm-hmm. And then just watch them as well. So I do post them, but I also let them be themselves and observe what they're doing in that moment.
What would be the big difference between how you did it when you're starting out versus now? Like, what are kind of the things to watch for, things that you no longer do? You know what I mean? Mistakes you made starting out.
Oh, I showed up with having a shot list in the beginning. Like, I went on Pinterest, on Instagram, screenshotted, just so I have an idea what to do, which is helpful. Mm-hmm. I also am a big believer that there's no copying in photography because it's really hard to get the exact same pose with a couple. Like, mm-hmm. Everyone is different. And in the end, we're posing two people. There's only so many things people can do. In the end, I always got a little bit frustrated because I was like, oh, I didn't get that shot and I didn't get that shot. But now I don't even plan it. I just show up and watch the couple and know. I mean, I have my standard poses now, which I'll always do. Like the forehead kisses.
There's a thing with foreheads with you, Hannah.
I know. I love a forehead kiss. And forehead grease.
It's interesting when you learn any skill. So let's say you're learning to play guitar, you go for a lesson. I remember like you have to think so hard about every single thing you do. And then when you learn to public speak, it's so awkward when you get up on stage because you have no idea what to say and you're second guessing everything. And I think the same thing applies to everything, but especially to photography and to posing and connecting. Like, it sounds to me like you're now at a point where it's kind of like breathing. Like, you can just show up and be comfortable. And now that you're comfortable, you're not in your own head so much and it just comes out, which is really, really cool.
But I also think when you look for inspiration in other people's work, you don't find your own inspiration in yourself. Like, you can do it. Just go and do your thing. Put your own twist on it rather than trying to be like someone else. Just be yourself. You'll be amazing anyway.
What do you think is the fastest and best way to improve your photography? Like, do you go back and look at your photos and say, what could I have done better? Or like, how does one get better other than just doing more?
Shoot. And shoot normal people. A lot of people go to workshops. I don't really agree a lot with workshops because you get models, perfectly styled models. Weddings are not like that. Like, weddings are normal people. Like, you and me, they're not models. They don't know how
Wait
to
a second. What are you saying, Hannah?
But I'd rather be a normal person than a model.
Yeah, okay.
Don't put that in. Learn to make everyone look amazing. You rock up at a workshop, get your camera out. You rarely need to do any posing. It's very easy. Go and find people. There's always people. Shoot for free. To this day, I'm shooting for free. And I don't mind it because I can be creative. No pressure on me. I can try, to this day, different things.
99.9% of the time, you're not going to be working with models. And you're going to have to know how to create the connection, make people comfortable, all that stuff that doesn't necessarily get learnt inside of a workshop. Because you learn a lot of different things, but not necessarily that one. So you're right. If you can master that superpower above all others, would you say that's the most important thing? Or what is the most important part of being an amazing photographer?
Yeah, just be able to shoot normal people and connect with them. Not just, don't shoot for Instagram, basically. Shoot for them, don't shoot for Instagram. For example, when I started out, I got all these incredible shots, but I wanted to get the attention from other photographers. I don't know why. I think we all do it. We all follow different photographers, but they're not your clients. You shoot people and you shoot their personalities, and that's what they want in the pictures. Yes, they want a few show-stopping images. What I've learned over the years is my favorite pictures which are those for Instagram, and never my couple's favorite pictures.
Are you ready to head into editing and do some editing together?
Let's do it. So this was an engagement shoot of one of my couples. It was actually on their original wedding date, but they had to postpone because of COVID. So we met in a random field somewhere halfway between us, and literally just before we showed up, it was raining hard, raining hard. So we were a bit panicking, which is like, oh no, we just drove all the way here because we live like 3 hours apart, but we're just like, okay, we're going to make it work. And to this day, it's one of my favorite shoots because that moody sky is insane. They're a really natural couple. So it was very easy to work with them. I hardly had to pose them. I think I literally just told them for this pose to face each other, spread their arms out and have like a little dance. And then they were just about to kiss. And I was like, okay, right, stop right there. I'm going to go down to my knees and I'm going to capture the sky. And there we go. This is the shot. Sometimes, you capture that picture and it's not planned. It doesn't happen. And it just happened in that moment. It was, like I said, I posed them, but I never expected to get a picture like that because they just did it naturally.
Well, you want to show us your edit? I'd love to see it.
Here we go. This is the raw file, which you can see I underexposed to get the sky because I wanted to get the moodiness from the sky. What I do now is first crop in. I'm a cropper. I always crop into images. Here you go.
And then what's your thought process in determining where you're cropping?
Have them in the center, which they're not. I am very OCD when it comes to straight pictures, having them in the center. When I shoot, to be honest, I'm a very wonky shooter because I just capture the moment rather having the perfect composition. So I do a lot in post. Your eyes drawn onto them straight away. So you have their faces, you just like, boom, there it is. This is my new preset. And we can see they're still quite dark. What I always do, and basically you'll see, I always up my shadows. That's all right. I'm someone that always does white balance after I put a preset on. I know a lot of people do it before. But I think because a preset still changes colors, it's sometimes very hard to tell what you need. So I might add a little bit more warmth into it. Maybe take it a bit of pink. Maybe straighten it a bit more. Then my new favorite thing are those beautiful buttons, which save so much work.
Oh my gosh.
Click on background. Make the sky a little bit more moody. I always remove highlights to get the sky.
So let's just back up really quick for anybody who isn't tracking.
Yeah.
You went into the far right, which is a new feature if you got the upgraded version of Lightroom, and you went select background, right?
Yes, select background.
Okay, and then from there you just basically lowered the exposure on the background, and then what did you do with the other one?
And the highlights.
Highlights. Okay,
I lowered the highlights.
Great.
So I went into I always use the burn and the dodge for darken and lighten. So I just went into burn. I think their faces are still a little bit dark. So we're going to go and get a brush. It's already set on lights. And go over the faces a little bit. I think she is a tiny bit orange, but his skin tone is fine. So I would also adjust that and get the saturation brush. Where is it? It's already set on 10, which is fine. There we go. It's a little bit better.
I think what I noticed is how subtle those two changes were. Like, can you show us, if you just pull up the mask, can you shut them off and turn them on again?
Yeah.
Because this is another thing I think people miss all the time is they try and do like these really heavy-handed giant effects, but it's about getting the little things right, like the tiny little bit of saturation.
Yeah, it's just little things. Yeah, you don't need to do a lot. Like I said, she was a bit orange. Might be my preset, might have been the light, who knows. So you just slightly adjust it and it makes such a big difference. So that's without the masks. And here we go with the masks on it. It's subtle, but it's there and it makes a big difference. We're going to add a little bit of grain because it's quite filmy, that picture. It reminds me of like little film scenes. So we add a little bit of grain. And then let's do a before and after. Here we go.
Okay, so I do have to ask you this question because I'm constantly boggled about how you actually set the grain in Lightroom. So what's your process? Are you just like, how do you determine the size and the roughness and all that?
I always go around 15 to 20, like a little bit of grain, but not too much. So it gives it a little bit of texture, but it's not overpowering and it doesn't look noisy. I literally have it set up in my preset and all I do is just play with it. It also depends on the picture. I don't add it to everything.
I love that. Let's go on to image number 2.
So that was actually a style shoot I organized myself with my friend. I wanted to do an elopement. Yeah, so we found a perfect Airbnb. And this is actually a model couple. But again, they got married and then decided they loved it so much that they actually made an Instagram account to be models. So they're not professionally trained, which I love because it still gives you that, you still have to work like you usually do, but they do know a little bit and they're up for, I mean, not everyone is probably up for me to be around when they get undressed after the wedding. Mm-hmm. I literally said to them, just sit on the bed. I always look for light. This is one of my things. As long as the light is all right, everything else doesn't really matter for me. The background, you can blur it out, you can crop it in. In this case, it works perfectly because the Airbnb was just beautiful. But the light is really nice and subtle and gives a nice shadow and highlight contrast as well. So yeah, I literally just said, sit on the bed and really very gently undress her. And that's what they did.
Any other tricks that go into this image? Was there a filter on there, a pro mist one? Because you do have some halation going on up in the light.
Yeah, I think there was a pro mist filter on it. That's when I still used it.
That's kind of where that haze came from.
Because you can see the light. But again, you can do that with just a little bit of a dirty lens. It always works. Don't clean your lens.
The forehead lens. Okay, perfect. So I'll let you get into editing.
Not just a smudge. Yeah, so come on. If we reset it, again, this is underexposed because you can tell the light coming in was quite bright still. They're quite underexposed, but that is not really a problem. So we put the preset on. Again, my favorite thing, up the shadows. You wouldn't believe what upping the shadows sometimes does to an image. Also, it's quite black because he's wearing quite dark colors, so we pull the blacks up a little bit too.
And how are you figuring out how high to pull the blacks and stuff like that? Is it all just by eye?
Or just by eye. I play with it. Like, this is obviously way too dark. This is way too bright. So if I go, how did I have it? Like this. And then we're going back into masks because I love masks. We're doing a background one again. Go into darken. There you go. So I'm most of the time darken the background so the focus is on the couple rather than what's going on behind them. Because we've got quite bright highlights. Go down on the highlights as well. I forgot to crop in a little bit too. No. Yeah, cropping is always just, you have to play around with it. So in this case, you can see this side, there was a window that's quite light. So I would again go in with the mask and linear gradient, just go up here, darken it again. There we go. Makes quite a difference because you're not drawn into the corner. You're again drawn now onto the couple. We're doing another linear gradient on the side. Again, make it a little bit darker. Here we go. And now they're more in the light. Their faces are quite dark, so we're going in with another brush. I also have to say I only put that much effort into couple photos for candidates and stuff like that at a wedding. I wouldn't do that much, but yeah. Mm-hmm. I rarely edit skin as well because I'm a big believer in skin textures. We all have them. We don't have smooth skin. I remove spots, but we can maybe soften her skin a tiny bit just up here where the makeup became a bit cakey, which we do with a brush as well. I actually have one set up from India Earl, which is not one you can buy. I was very cheeky. She has some YouTube videos, and then one of a talk she did, and she recorded it, and then she showed her brush, and the settings were on the side. So,
so
I just
perfect.
paused the video and copied the brush, which is literally my favorite brush because it's very subtle. Like, there you go. You can see it just makes a tiny bit of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because his beard kind of blends in with his shirt. Mm-hmm. We're gonna change that a little bit as well. Lighten it up again. Oh, come on. There we go. Just make it a bit... Oh, what's happening? Okay, make it just a tiny bit lighter. It's just those subtle things that make big changes. Remove a bit of shadow.
And that's just to stand out from the shirt a little bit more? Or what is kind of the reason for the beard?
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't blend in too much, so you can see it a bit more that he's actually got a beard. Then I think I would lower the contrast a little bit because, again, it's quite a filmy scene. And then maybe a little bit more warmth. And there we go.
There you go. Once again, I'm startled and amazed at the subtlety of all of these little changes and how it's like, it's just so much about developing your eyes to be able to see what needs to be done, hey?
Yeah. It took me a long time to see those things, but now it's just like, okay, I know what I need to change. And they make such a big difference. Rather than focusing too much on skin, it's more just like I said, his beard. It just gives it a little bit more life. Now you can see it.
What's next? Let's hit image number 3.
And this one, I was actually quite creative with this one. So the story to this one is I did a giveaway. So every year for Valentine's Day, I do a giveaway where they can win a shoot and a stay at an Airbnb.
Oh, very cool.
And again, it's investing in your own business, basically, because you then get some nice pictures in the perfect location because we all know how important the location is for the shoot. I choose the Airbnb. They have to come close to me. I choose the Airbnb. I pay for one night and then we basically shoot one afternoon. And I do that every year on Valentine's Day.
That's so cool. So how do you do it? You just post it on your Instagram and then you say, hey, if you want to enter, send me a photo, or kind of walk me through that really quick?
No, I do a post and just be like, because I'm someone that just loves people and I hate having, all my couples are the perfect Instagram couples. Because I think everyone is. I know a lot of photographers choose people that are ridiculously beautiful, but I think everyone is beautiful and you can get beautiful pictures out of everyone. So I don't really care what they look like. So I literally just go like, yeah, you can win this, like this post, tag some people and follow me. And that's it. And then
that's awesome. Such a great strategy and like kind of tactic that people can use to build their portfolio. Because again, like, the thing that's so interesting is when you start off, people tend to be so cheap in some ways. It's like you just spent $1,000 on a lens and $2,000 on a camera, but then you won't spend $200 to get some amazing photos in an amazing spot. So I love that.
Exactly. And it's like you can go to a workshop, pay in the UK, they're now £400. Or you pay a night at an Airbnb and you've got the couple to yourself and have time to create some magic. So yeah, I think it's a really good investment in your own business rather than sharing pictures with another 10 other photographers.
And the funny thing is you probably learn more too doing it on your own than you would in the workshop setting almost.
Yes. So in this case, the Airbnb was a lot darker than I expected it to be when I chose it. So I had to be a little bit creative. Again, it was a standard English rainy days. We had to do with what we had. And I brought my rotor lights to this one.
And rotor lights are just like a standard video light, or what is it?
Yeah, they're like a standard continuous light. I think I have the Neo 2, which, they're quite handy to have them even at weddings because you can always add some light to it. It's quite well done in this picture because he's actually holding the light in his backhand, but it looks also like he's touching her shoulder. Yeah.
So resourceful, Hannah.
I know. And I literally just chose a dark corner where there was a bit of light on their faces, and he held the light behind them, so it comes right through them.
Beautiful. I would have thought it was a window. Okay, I'll let you start editing.
Yeah, let's reset it. It's actually quite dark. Like I say, it was a very dark room. But then again, with the Sony and the Canon, it doesn't matter if it's really dark. My ISO was only 500, but I know the dynamic range is incredible. So you can pull up all those shadows. So we're going back to my preset. We're doing my favorite thing, pull up all the shadows. Then up the exposure. Maybe lower the highlights a little bit because they're quite bright. Again, on this side, he's quite bright. There was more light, so we go in with a linear gradient again. Not lighten it, but darken it. Again, so the main focus is on their faces and not what's going on around them. Mm-hmm. We're going to do a little crop. Have their faces more in the center. So this one has been really bugging me because there's this one hair which is highlighted by the light. Let's see. Let's remove that. Let's see how Lightroom's new feature is doing it. It's actually not too bad because when you go away, you can barely see it. And to be fair, no one zooms in like this usually. And it's a quick edit now, so I would probably soften it a little bit up so it blends more in. In this case, I would actually go for the softened skin from Lightroom because it's quite a heavy one. There you go. It softens it up a little bit. You can go back. Maybe make the bottom a bit darker again with a linear gradient. Here we go. Move that a little bit over. I think that looks alright. Again, very easy edit with just a few changes.
And again, it's just the little things stacked on top of each other. They all add up. I love it.
Yeah, so we're going to Canon now. This was actually one of my first shoots on the Canon. So this is actually one of my wedding couples from last year, but they got married just on a field and they really wanted some beach photos. So they booked an extra adventure session / I started a new thing called skin on skin sessions, which is more going into boudoir and intimate couple photos. And so they were like, Hannah, can we do one of those sessions? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And because it was an adventure session, which I love, they don't really care about their outfits anymore. So it's a lot easier to post them.
Yeah.
And they don't care. The dress was already dirty from the day. So you can put them in the dirt, in the sand. They even jumped into the sea with their clothes on. This was actually a nudist beach, we went to, and it has the most beautiful sand dunes. And I was like, I have to take pictures in them. And I was just like, can you sit down and have a cuddle, touch each other? So before I start a shoot, I actually always tell my couples I've got 2 rules. And number 1 is always touch each other, like always be touchy, feely, kissy all over. Don't give each other a break. And the second one is try not to look at the camera. And I think because I brief them and be like, yeah, you have to be touchy feely, they just automatically do it. But I think because of my portfolio, I attract those people more than the people that want those cool city shots.
Yeah. No, that's a really, really great tip to give your couples.
Because it's quite intimidating. Like I said earlier, they don't know what to do in front of a camera. I mean, they had the experience of a shoot before. But again, it was a year ago. So most of the people forget how it feels like. And it just really helps. And because they're a touchy-feely couple anyway, it makes it a lot easier to pose. So
Perfect.
I literally I give them small instructions like just sit there and have a cuddle. I probably told them to hold hands or something like that because people never know what to do with their hands. And then I just waited for them to have this cute little moment and took a picture of it.
Awesome. Okay, let's see that edit.
So let me put my Canon preset on. It looks very green. Let's see sometimes I play with auto. That looks horrible. Okay, let's add some pink to it and some warmth. Makes it look a little bit better. Then we go again into the shadows and pull them up. And there we go. Such a big difference by just pulling up the shadows. Going a little bit lower on the highlights. Not too much because her dress will get too dark. I think it's a little bit too pink. So there we go. Let me just check what I always do as well. Skin tones. Skin tones are the most important thing. They look all right. You don't want people to be too orange or too pink. In this case, I've noticed the dress has got a bit of blue tint, which is very common when the groom has got a blue suit. So we're just gonna go into the blue, take a little bit of the blue out, but not too much. So his suit is still blue, but I think it's actually more the aqua. There we go. That takes up quite a bit. Okay, maybe a little bit more of the blue. Here we go. Then I think we can go into masking. We're going for the sky now because it was a nice... Again, this was shot in blue hour, just after golden hour to get this nice soft light. Lower the highlights so we get the nice blue sky. I think we're gonna go in with a linear gradient. I always go for the linear gradient. I also learned that from India Earl. Because the radial can sometimes leave this weird circle around them. With a linear, you have a lot more flexibility. What you can do. That's a bit too light. Let's just add a little bit. Here we go. There we go. To the faces again. They look a bit dark, so we get a nice brush. Where is that? Here. Lighten, probably don't need 25. Just to take those shadows out. And then we'll straighten it. Add a little bit more warmth. And maybe we'll do the background as well because I still think that they're not properly in the light yet. So if we darken the background. Here we go. That makes such a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And here we go. Now they're perfectly lit up. Maybe let's go a little bit. I'm a perfectionist, so I play around with a lot of things until I get there. But here we go.
Perfect. So that is, we'll call it 95%. You probably would have messed around a little bit longer, I'm sure.
I probably would play a little bit more with it.
Can I ask you to do me a favor? Just set the white balance to as shot so we can see the difference just in the white balance.
Yep. That is very green.
Yeah. So I think that's something else that people really can take out of this is watching you, Hannah. You've got such a great eye for where that should sit. And if you don't get the white balance right, the rest of it almost, not that it doesn't matter, but it's not going to do much. Your photo's still going to feel wrong if you can't get that where it needs to be. So that's great.
This looks a lot warmer and more natural than,
Let's hit this next image, and I would love to hear the backstory of what actually went into getting that lens flare.
So this is actually in Greece. I was there to shoot a wedding, and my friends and their family were there at the same time. And I was like, okay, we're all here. So I was like, let's do a beach shoot. And this was actually my friend's sister and her partner. And we did a nice little golden hour session. Mm-hmm. You can see the sun just setting right behind them.
And was this a free shoot or a paid shoot?
Yeah, that's a free shoot. They're friends. I don't ask my friends for money. Also, again, I know I can use those for my portfolio. This is the original.
Yeah.
Let's start with cropping in, straighten it up. Like I said earlier, I like nice lines, and especially when you have the sea, you need a nice horizontal line straight. There's still so many pictures of photographers I see that are so wonky, and I was just like, oh. So yeah, I think it changes the picture so much when you just have a straight line in the background. Then here it was quite, this is really annoying me, this bit down there. So we're gonna edit the dirt out a little bit. I don't mind footprints in the sand because I mean, the sand is full of footprints. They belong there. And I'm also not over editing pictures and cleaning them up because I'm all about real life. And yes, it's nice for pictures, but we also, thanks to social media, forget that things are messy. Life is messy. So we'll just leave it in there. But that makes a little bit of a difference. It's a little bit cleaner. I will probably crop in a little bit more. We're gonna get rid, maybe we don't have to, of that ladder. There we go. There was a ladder in the water, which we cropped out, saves us the edit. And then we go and put a preset on. So because I had to underexpose this one because golden hour, you always have to shoot a bit underexposed to get that light. Again, for that, it's very subtle, but I'm pretty sure I rubbed a bit of my forehead grease on the camera to get this soft flare. The sun was not very strong anymore, so it's not a ridiculous flare, but you can get amazing flares.
And so are you just like, you're doing this and then you put it on the lens. Is it where you want the flare to be, or is it just all over the lens?
No, where I want the flare to be.
Interesting.
So I knew, because obviously I see it. The good thing is I usually wear glasses, and my glasses are usually dirty, and glasses really help to see sun flares. So I know
where it's going to be.
I have to put, because I can see the flare through my glasses.
Okay, really cool. All right.
Yeah. So let's go and do the couple first. They are quite dark. So we're going to lighten them up a little bit. Maybe add a little bit of contrast because they're quite washed out. This is why I prefer blue hour, because golden hour is quite tricky sometimes to get everything properly exposed. And then you lose a lot of contrast, and it always looks beautiful, but if you have to edit 25 weddings in a year and some extra shoots, it takes up a lot of time. So let's do the background. So all I did was just lighten them up and up the shadows. For the background, we're going to go dark as usual, which again puts them more into the foreground. We definitely need some warmth in the background because that's where the sun is. Not on the couple necessarily, because they are already quite tanned and their skin is a little bit more on the orange side. So I wouldn't add too much on the couple, but you can do that easily with a mask. Just do the background. And then it looks a lot nicer already. By just doing this. With this one, I also used India Solace light flares. I rarely use them because I basically forget that I have them. But in this case, I remembered and I wanted to bring out that flare a tiny bit more. So I'm pretty sure I used was it this flare? Or was it this flare? It was this one. It was the flare one central, which I then remove this because I don't need it. I think that looks too fake. But she has this little mask up there. And you just move it, if it wants to, towards the sun. And look at the difference.
That's actually pretty magical. And for anybody wondering, the settings of that particular flare are kind of down in the bottom right where it says, you can see the brush settings there.
They're just here. But yeah, it's just, again, such a little change that makes such a big difference. This corner looks quite dark. So we're going in with a linear gradient again. Pulling up the shadows. Here we go. So we can see the beautiful backdrop. And again, their feet look quite dark. So we're doing exactly the same thing down here. Because it was shot during golden hour, I would actually add a little bit of dehaze to give it a little bit more of a punch. Not much. I think that's perfect. And maybe the shadows a bit higher and the blacks. And we might give the couple a little bit more contrast. So it's a bit more punchy. And maybe just a little bit more exposure. Maybe slightly more warmth, but again, not too much. And there we go.
Absolutely love that. And what's kind of funny is in my head, when you brightened up the subject and you darken the background, I was like, oh, that's way too far. But then once you added the dehaze and a little bit of warmth and everything, like now it's perfect. So once again, I stand here amazed.
It's just little things that make such a big difference. And you just have to play with it and try it out. And then once you've done it a few times, you just know what to do.
Beauty. So, what's next?
Yeah.
I love this shot. How did you get the light rays like that?
Yeah, that's why I chose it. Because I forgot to say earlier, I do sometimes have in my camera bag this amazing thing called atmosphere spray. And this is what I've used for this. It's rare that I can use it. You literally need to have the perfect light falling in. It's like, when you randomly shake a blanket and there's light coming into your living room and then you can see all the dust in the air. This is basically what it is. It's just like a smoky spray, like a mist machine, but in a can.
Yeah, like in a spray can.
We were lucky. Yeah, exactly. And we were lucky enough while we took the groom portraits, it just came in and I was like, oh my God, we need to use it. Yeah, when you can use it, it's just very cinematic and cool. And it adds just this little bit extra to it.
Let's dive in.
This is all the way up in Scotland, which was very funny because we went all the way up to Scotland and we were hoping for those Scottish moody skies, and we got 26 degrees. and pure
And sunny.
sunshine.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah, of course. I know. I was so excited. And then we got 20. Yeah, he is wearing a tweed suit as well. He was sweaty. Bless him. But I said earlier, I'm not very good at composition and I have to crop in and straighten, which you can see here compared to my before edit. It's very wonky. But again, you can fix these things in post. You don't rather shoot the moment. I saw the light, we had to get the light, everything else didn't really matter in that moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's straighten this up. Let's see what auto does. This is pretty good, and it crops out the table that was there as well. Maybe zoom in a little bit. Here we go. Then we put my preset back on. Again, this is literally, there's not a lot I need to change. The colors looks really beautiful. My preset works really nicely with brown colors. So I usually tend to choose my background around that as well, because I know it makes my life a lot easier when I edit. It's either green leaves in the background or brown tones, neutral tones. So in this case, again, we're doing the shadows, not too much, because using the window light here again, it falls perfectly onto his face, keeps the side in the shade, which adds a nice contrast to it. And yeah, again, first thing you see is his face and the light flares. I would actually just maybe take a brush and highlight those flares a little bit so they're even more obvious. And maybe a little bit more of the black. Yeah, but I think that's all I would do.
Beautiful.
Again.
And it just shows you how important it is. If you have it right in camera, it becomes really simple.
Yeah, just expose for I always expose for the face. So, because again, you can lose a lot of detail when you don't have the face properly exposed. And then the rest around it is not that important and you can work with it.
Okay, let's hit our final image.
This was the same couple next day in Scotland and we got the moody skies.
Finally, yeah.
Again, it worked very nicely. I knew when I saw it with my preset because it's very neutral and green the background. That's the original. Again, not the best composition, but I know I can fix that in post. So let's put them right into the center. I think because it's such a beautiful landscape, I want to keep the landscape and have them. I mean, this is a standard Scottish picture. I think everyone that's shot in Scotland has a picture like that. I'm always jealous of Scottish photographers.
Oh my gosh, me too.
So let's put the preset on. This looks quite warm to me. So we're gonna go down with the temperature, cool it. Again, we're doing the shadows. I think there's a little theme here. First thing I change is the shadows. Again, the background is quite bright compared to them. So we're going into the background. There we go. Puts the focus more on the couple again. Maybe actually lower the highlights a little bit to enhance that sky. His face is still looking a bit dark to me, so we're zooming in. See them. Brush, just again lighten it up slightly. Here you go, and then I think this side still here looks a bit where the sun is falling on, looks a bit bright, so we're going in with a linear gradient. And I'm going to darken it. That's a little bit too much. Here we go. There we go.
So once again, it's subtle little changes. There's not a ton that's been done to the edit. It's definitely it's polished. You put the icing on there, but so much of it was just in the way that you posed the couple, found the landscape, exposed, had that great sky.
Yeah. Well, I tell it's one of my favorite poses, the bear hug. And a little kiss on the head.
Yeah, the forehead.
Which always, because, the kiss on the head is always because it connects the couple. There is like, there's no space in between them, which makes it more intimate. That's why I love it so much, I think. And it's just a really lovely moment getting a kiss on the head, isn't it?
So that was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. I would love to ask you 2 last questions when it comes to your editing, just overall. So
yes.
The first one would be, what misconceptions did you have starting out that since you've learned how to edit better and better and better, you've now kind of changed that? Like, originally I thought it was all about doing this, but it's actually more of that. Like, what kind of things did you believe at first that were wrong?
Well, I did, when I first started, I underexposed every single photo because everyone was like, to get the skies and things like that. And it's just, now I know, like I've mentioned a few times, if you underexpose too much, you lose a lot of detail in photos as well, and it looks rather washed out. So now I rarely, maybe I underexpose one stop, but not a lot. So I'd rather have their faces perfectly exposed than the sky, because the dynamic ranges of the cameras nowadays are incredible. You can always put back a sky, like always, unless you completely blow it out. And it's also not bad to blow out skies, because in the end, couples want to see their faces rather than it's very interesting because we think so much about those photos, but in the end, couples just care about how they look and if they look good in that photo, and everything else plays an important role, but it's a very minor role. So if the sky is blown out, still deliver that picture, because it might be one of their favorite pictures.
Just because of the way they look. And I think that would be true whether you're doing weddings or commercial shoots or anything. Like, at the end of the day, it's the client is most concerned about whatever the client is. So whether that's a product or a person.
Exactly.
So with that kind of in mind and thinking about that mistake, that's more of like an in-camera thing. What is the number one editing mistake that you think you see most people make when they're trying to edit photos in a style like yours?
I think it's quite hard to find the right balance of shadows and light and not being too dark. I have to admit, when I first started, I mean, it was the dark and moody phase where everything was really dark. But when I look back at my pictures now, I'm like, wow, they can't even see themselves properly. But again, I've learned a lot, because when I started, I shot more for me, which is horrible to say, but I think all photographers, we're creatives, we have big egos. And over the time, I've learned that it's not about me, those pictures. It's about other people's. Don't edit too dark. Also, check with your prints. Order prints, which I never used to do before. And then I ordered some prints and I was like, whoa, this is completely different, because prints always turn out a little bit darker as well. So if you edit too dark, the prints will be even darker. So that was one of my... I still feel sorry for my couples that first had me because they're so dark, those pictures. But again, it was a style at the time, and they love them, and they see those pictures completely different to we see the pictures. Also, white balance, because skin tones. It's very hard to nail skin colors because it's easy to be too orange. For example, I don't edit at night. Because my edits are always a lot more orange in the evenings than in the mornings. And I wake up and I'm like, have to redo everything because I'm like, oh no, this is not working. But back in the day, I only edited at night because I had my little one. And again, but you train your eye, you don't see these things over time. So again, do free shoots, edit during different times of the day to see how your edit changes.
Yeah, that's good. It's good advice. And
Because
for
it
anyone
does.
who's wondering, it's not because like you're more tired at night necessarily. Oftentimes it's because the light that is in the room is completely different than the daylight coming through the window. So that's kind of why your eyes tend to adjust to things differently, and then you'll edit correspondingly to that. And I want to say thank you so much. That was an absolutely incredible conversation. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot, honestly. And once again, it really drove home the point that like it's about these little changes, getting it right in camera, connection over pretty much anything else, and making it about the client rather than about you. So thank you so much, Hannah. I really appreciate the time that you took to do this call, and
Thank you so
kinda
much for having me.
unveiling the secrets. It was amazing. So for people who want to find more from you, follow you, connect with you, where can they find your stuff and where can they connect with you?
On Instagram, I'm finnandthefox.weddings. My inbox is always open. I'm always happy to help people because especially when you start out, you don't know what to do. And I'm always super happy because I didn't have anyone that helped me. I'm all self-trained. So I'm really there for other people and happy to help. So
Absolutely
hit me
incredible.
up on Instagram.
So we will put those links in the description. We'll have a list of all of your gear in the description as well for anybody who's wondering. And if you do have questions as a result of this entire video, leave them in the comments and I'll try and make sure Hannah sees those and has the chance to respond to those, or just send her a message because she is amazing. So with that in mind, thank you, Hannah. Let's wrap up and we'll call this another episode of Behind the Edit.
Thank you.
All right, so that does it for this episode of Behind the Edit. I hope that it was helpful for you. If it was, can you do me 2 huge favors? 1, can you give Hannah some love on her Instagram? Make sure you check the links in the description. You can also find her gear list there and pretty much everything else that is awesome. Number 2, can you do me a big favor? Leave a comment below. Or if you just have a question, leave that there too, because we are going to make sure that we answer every single one. All right, hit that thumbs up button as per usual. Hit the subscribe if you want to stay up to date with more content like this. And I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, create something awesome. Peace.